Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, founder of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the Voices for Voices movement, helping people step out of the shadows, share their story, inspire others, educate, uh, and just be a light for those that um, may not think that anybody is feeling like they do or has had an experience like they have had. And so Voices for Voices has been and continues to be a huge proponent of uh, no matter how regular an individual is or uh, celebrity, we're all human beings. We've all gone through a lot of things in our lives. And the best thing we can do is to talk about them, listen to others, and and try the best that we can, and just be ourselves, and try not to get it hung up on labels and classifications and comparisons and judgments and all that. I know it's easier said than done. I'm speaking from experience, so I'm right there with you. Uh, so today's episode is going to be on a very important topic, like all the topics we cover. It is important not only for you and for me and for organizations and universities and governments. Uh, it's it's important for everybody, all of those. So from the biggest organization, government, all the way down to, a single person like you or I. Uh, and so we're gonna hop right in. And the topic is gonna be cyber attacks. And they're very uh, they're interesting to talk about. So we're gonna talk about, the definition, what a cyber attack is, some examples, and some ways to uh, prepare and defend against those, uh, because there's good in the world and there's not so good in the world. And part of the not so good in the world are people trying to take things that aren't theirs, take work, take intellectual property, take maybe uh, a screenplay, maybe a playbook for a football team. Uh, there can be many reasons. War plans for government, and so from again that top level of governments and large organizations, all the way down to individuals like you and I. And so we're gonna quote here quite a bit because I want to get the information correct when we're talking about definitions. And so we are going to be quoting quite a lot and paraphrasing from IBM, and this is at www.ibm.com/think topics /cyber, which is CYBER dash attack, ATTACK. So first we're going to start out on what is a cyber attack? And so, according to IBM, a cyber attack is any intentional effort to steal, expose, alter, disable, or destroy data, applications, or other assets through unauthorized access to a network, computer system, or digital device. So basically, the way I think of it is, we have, let's say, information on our phones where we have photos or Again, maybe if we're a coach for a sporting team, maybe we have a playbook and we don't want the competitors and others to find out about that, or uh, just as an example. And so there's information, again, at the highest level, the simplest form. There's information that you and I have that we we're, we haven't and we aren't giving consent to another person, another organization to access that information. Uh, so again, it's basically stealing, but since we're talking about the cyberspace, cyber world, it's called a cyber attack. And we talk about these threat actors, which are basically the people that are trying to do the bad things and steal things that aren't theirs. They do this for all types of reasons, and ranging from petty theft, again, all the way up to I mentioned governments and uh, having maybe war plans, and so that again, that's at the highest level, that an individual or individuals could do that. Uh, they the cyber attacks can not only disrupt, they can damage and even destroy businesses. And so when we talk about the cause of a data breach, which is when a cyber attack is successful, which is what we don't want, the average is $4.88 million dollars, and that includes the cost for discovering and responding to the cyber attack violation, the downtime, because usually you have to take your systems down to put preventative measures in, and a lot of times that ends up in lost revenue. And then there's also that the image, the long-term reputation damage to that particular business and their brand. Uh, and so we look at, why do they happen? IBM gives us really three main categories. Motivations can vary, but they limited here at a high level. One can be uh, criminal, so they could be doing it for criminal reasons. Two, they could be doing it for political reasons. And three, they could be doing it for personal reasons. So if we look at the first one, criminally motivated cyber attack, where the attackers are seeking some form of financial gain through monetary theft, data theft, disrupting a business. And so an example would be, a cyber criminal may hack into a bank account to steal money, either directly or to use other tools, the like social engineering scams, uh, where, message is sent, there's a link there, you click the link, it takes you to the cyber attacker's website, and once you enter your personal information, that gives them access to do that. So one important thing to think about is not all of these cyber attacks are going to, be flashing, hey, this is a cyber attack. Hey, this is a cyber attack. Watch out. There's different ways that these cyber attacks happen, and these criminals, these individuals, that's basically their job. Their job is to find ways to cyber attack you and I, businesses, governments, and, and so that's what they spend their time on. And so they could be, again, they could do it for uh, tricking people into sending money to them. We've talked about on a previous show a sex team instance with it tragically ended with uh, a local high schooler passing away from suicide, uh, where he was, this individual was being targeted. Somehow they got into conversation with this person. Uh, the individual ended up sending nude photos, and things escalated where the person was telling, this high schooler, "Hey, I'm going to expose these pictures if you don't send me money." So he sent money, and he's doing all these things, and then I can only imagine that he was just like, "Oh my gosh, my family, people are going to find out about this." Uh, and so one of the unfortunate things about these people are a lot of them, they don't really care who they hurt and how they hurt people. And that that guest that we had on, well, we had the parents because the child had passed away, and they were talking about that, and that the attacker, the person who's involved, they come in to the office and they do their cyber attacks and that, and then they go home at the end of the day, and that's just their job. If we move down to extortion, so again, that's really where I was getting at, the sexting, the sextortion, uh, to basically hold data, or in the case I mentioned, holding photos hostage until the individual pays, uh, or if this is a company, until a company pays. So, hey, we've accessed this particular information, and so that's an area to think about. Uh, then we get into so politically, the same thing, holding information, a past video, a past interview, where a candidate was talking about a very sensitive, controversial topic, and the attackers, they look for money, they look for all kinds of things. And then they threaten that they'll put this, particular, if it's a video or an audio recording or pictures of them out with somebody other than their significant other, uh, and so that can definitely put uh, a big thing on politics, political candidates, politics, uh, and then we also think about, cyber terrorism when we're talking about politically motivated, where, these individuals from other countries, other nation states, they target their enemies' government agencies or critical infrastructure. And so the example IBM gives is, since the Russia-Ukraine war, both countries have experienced a big uptick of cyber attacks against vital institutions. These activist hackers, there's always seems to be a nickname or that goes along with them. These activist hackers are called hacktivists, and they may not cause extensive damage to their targets. Instead, they may be looking for attention for their causes by making their attacks known to the public. Uh, Less common is cyber attack motivations of corporate espionage, in which hackers will steal intellectual property to gain an unfair advantage over competitors. So maybe a new product that's in the works, uh, in research and development. That information could be targeted, and if stolen, then it would not give just that particular organization a a leg up or on a new product that that information could be shared with competitors. And some cyber attackers, they hack for sport, savoring, the intellectual challenge. Say, hey, I've done this. Yeah, I was able to extort 10 million. Oh, I can do better. I can extort 11 million. And so there's that competitive drive that can also be there. Who's behind these cyber attacks? It could be criminal organizations, again, people from different countries, private persons. They can all start cyber attacks. So whether you're the biggest organization, the biggest government, or an individual like you and I, we all can be attacked for various reasons. Uh, outsider threats, they aren't authorized. They don't like work for the company. They're what it says. They're outsiders, and they use a network or device and break in anyways. And so this includes, organized criminal groups, professional hackers, state-sponsored hackers, amateur hackers, and as we mentioned, that hacktivists. Then we also have the inside threats. And so these are individuals who have authorized and legitimate access to a company's assets and misuse those privileges deliberately or accidentally. This can include, employees, business partners, clients, contractors, suppliers with system access. Now, while the negligent users can put the companies at risk, it's only a cyber attack if the user intentionally uses their privileges to carry out that malicious activity. So, an employee who carelessly stores sensitive information in an unsecured drive, uh, like a flash drive or external hard drive, isn't committing a cyber attack, but a disgruntled employee who knowingly makes copies of confidential data for personal gain is. Uh, what do cyber attacks target? We've really talked about this, but we'll run through the list quick. One is money, one is business financial data, client list, customer data, uh, including personally identifiable information or other personal data, social security numbers is the main one, email address, email addresses and login credentials, and intellectual property like trade secrets or like I mentioned, new product designs. And in some cases, cyber attackers don't want to steal anything at all. They just merely want to disrupt information systems or an information technology or IT infrastructure to damage a business, government agency, or other targets. And again, we talked about some of the attacks, the effects. Could be uh, cause a server to crash, and then there's that downtime. There's the preventative measures that have to be put in place. There can be a loss of revenue and money and all that. Uh, Phishing attacks, not like phishing. These are phishing. So these phishing attacks allow the hackers to trick people into sending money or sensitive information about that. Uh, let's see. So these are some bigger words. So malware, Trojan horses, ransomware, scareware, spyware, rootkits, worms, social engineering, phishing, denial of service, man in the middle attacks, account compromise, supply chain attack, uh, and so there's quite a few. And so I want to thank IBM .com /thing /topics /cyber dash attack for providing this very detailed information on cyber attacks. What we want to think about here is or next is how do we protect ourselves? What are things that we can do to minimize us being a victim knowingly, unknowingly to a cyber attack? So we want to think twice before we post anything. So this is referring to the unicef.org, which is UNICEF.org /stories /how dash to dash stop dash cyberbullying number 8. So we want to think twice about what we post. It could be online forever and harm us later. Try not to give out our personal details, such as our address, our phone number, or the name of our school. Learn about the privacy settings, about our favorite social media apps. Decide who can see our profiles, who can send us direct messages or comment on our posts by adjusting our account privacy settings. You can report hurtful comments, messages, photos, and videos and request they be removed. And in the United States, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is who we would want to be um, reporting this to, our local authorities. But in the end, because more than likely we're looking at not just one state or one city, that these attacks are coming from other cities, other states, which means it's an interstate crime, and that usually falls under federal crime, and so that's where the FBI comes in. We can unfriend people, we can block people to stop them from seeing our profile or contacting us. We can choose to have comments by certain people appear only to them without completely blocking them. We can delete posts on our profile or hide them from specific people. Uh, and on most of our favorite social media platforms, people aren't notified when we block, restrict, or report them. So again, thanks again to unicef.org for that. Uh, and I did mention that the FBI is who we want to be, uh, who we'd want to be sharing. This information, these cyber attacks, if something's happened, or whether uh, we have proof that something may be coming. We want to get a hold of the FBI. So now we're moving to the last part of our episode today, which is FBI.gov, and so this is under the cyber threat. And so the title is malicious cyber attack. Malicious cyber activity threatens the public safety and our national and economic security. The FBI's cyber strategy is to impose risk and consequences on cyber adversaries. So uh, they're looking at trying to have penalties in place so people will think twice or three times before they do something. And again, so I'll be quoting some direct pieces from this FBI webpage, and I'll be also summarizing at times. So I'm uh, not not plagiarizing is what we're getting to. And so the goal is to change the behavior of criminals and nation states who believe that they can compromise. And so we're talking about the United States here, in these cases, our U.S. networks, uh, steal financial intellectual property, put critical infrastructure at risk without facing risk themselves, like that they can do something and they can get a benefit, but there's no risk imposed on them. That's where the FBI comes in and they want to impose those risks. And so the way they do that is the FBI they have a unique mix of authorities, capabilities, and partnerships to actually impose the consequences against our cyber adversaries. Again, the FBI is the lead federal agency for investigating cyber attacks and intrusions. They collect and share intelligence and engage with victims while working to unmask those committing malicious cyber activities wherever they are. When people can hide, we know people can hide behind screen names and the like, and so that's a key area. Finally, who's actually doing this? Uh, we can learn more about how to protect ourselves from cyber criminals, how we can report cybercrime, and the Bureau's efforts in combating the involving cyber threat. And so cyber threats, they're they're complex, and that's a global concern, not just here in the United States, but if you're watching, listening somewhere outside the United States, uh, this could also be a threat for you and your nation as well. And so, the FBI states that the adversaries, the people looking to do the bad things, are looking to exploit gaps in intelligence and information security networks. The FBI is committed to working with all federal counterparts, foreign partners, and private sector to close those gaps. And so the partnerships that the FBI has and are forging allows them to defend networks, attribute malicious activity to certain people, certain organizations. Again, that unmasking, sanction bad behavior, and take the fight to our adversaries overseas. So it's not just our adversaries and people doing this activity, uh, are not just here in the United States. Some of them could be in other countries. And the way the FBI likes to look at it is a team approach where they have hubs where government, industry, academic, from long trusted relationships, and they combine those efforts against cyber threats. The hub, and so what the big term is the NCIJTF, which is the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force. And it talks about how they work, that they have special trained squads, they have 55 field offices, they work together, that they have a rapid response cyber action team that can respond within hours of major incidents. They have you know, assistant legal attaches, which just means they have uh, individuals in embassies across the globe, and that they work closely with the international counterparts. Uh, and the Internet Crime Complaint Center is where or, or actually collects reports of the internet crime from the public. Using the complaints, the IC3's Internet Crime Complaint Center Recovery Asset Team has assisted in freezing hundreds of thousands of dollars for victims of cybercrime, where they've been victim and they've given money to individuals. And so freezing that, making that money not available to those adversaries. That this, the cyber threat landscape is the Watch, which is the FBI's 24/7 operations center and watch floor. And so they provide around the clock support. They track incidents and communicate with field offices across the country. And so we talked about earlier protecting ourselves. take the right security measures of being alert and aware when connected are key ways to prevent cyber intrusion. Getting antivirus, maybe a VPN, which is a virtual private network. Uh, they can they can help combat, these. Nothing's foolproof, but it can help. And I would say maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, a virus, an antivirus program was thought of kind of as a luxury. Well, now it's a necessity. So if you don't have one, you should get one. Uh, there's business email compromises where scams exploit the fact that so many of us rely on email to do business, both personal and professional. And it's one of the most damaging online crimes. Identity theft, just what it says, when someone steals our personal information, like our social security number, and uses it to commit theft or fraud. Ransomware, we heard that before, is a type of malicious software, or they call it malware, and that prevents us from accessing our own computer files, systems, or networks and demands you pay a ransom for their return. And then they'll let you back, or you can use your own programs. Like you can't double click on a program and it come up when you're under attack like this. Spoofing and phishing, the PH phishing, they're schemes that they're aimed at tricking us into providing sensitive information to scammers. Online predators, talked about that sextortion, unfortunately. It's a growing threat to young people. They receive a message, they're getting phones earlier and earlier, younger and younger, and the brain hasn't fully developed. And so when they get messages from people, they're like, oh wow, they're interested in me, uh, and some of these nefarious people, they prey on that. We talk about, different tips again. Internet-enabled crimes and cyber intrusions are becoming increasingly sophisticated, and preventing them requires each of us um, that has a connected device to be aware and on guard. And so here's a few cyber safety tips in addition to what we mentioned, and some of them may overlap. Keep systems and software up to date and install a strong, reputable antivirus program. And there's Norton, there's all kind of different names that AVG that are out there. Uh, it's easy when we're in the middle of doing things. We don't want to update the software. Well, we need to, and that's that's part of helping keeping us safe. We want to be careful when we're connecting to public Wi-Fi, like if we're going to a Starbucks or somewhere, and we want to have a mindset that we're not conducting any sensitive transactions, including purchases, looking up our bank accounts when we're on a public network, because that can be viewed by that nice people. We get the passwords, so create a strong and unique passphrase for each online account. I know it's a pain in the butt, uh, something that's a necessity now. Set up multi-factor authentication on all accounts to allow it, which basically is we log in using a password, and then we're given a message sent to maybe our phone or a different email address to verify that it's actually us. And we have a certain amount of time, like a minute or two or 30 seconds, to enter that information. So that's where you get the multi-factor authentication. So which is more than one. Examine all email addresses in our correspondences, and scrutinize website URLs before responding to a message or visiting a site. Very often, uh, email addresses are misspelled. Uh, if it would have a name and it would say at gmail.com, but it would, instead of it being gmail.com, it could be at g.mail.com. And so the littlest thing uh, could catch up with, I guess, catch up with us and lead us down a path. And so we want to, again, if we're not expecting something, it doesn't look right, just delete it, report it as spam, and move on with our day. Don't click on anything unsolicited or text messages. Again, if we're not expecting something, don't click it. And be cautious about the information we share in our online profiles, social media accounts. We already talked about that. Uh, Try not to share things like pet names, school, family members, and that can give, scammers hints they need for our passwords. If we're on vacation, all that stuff. And don't send payments to unknown people or organizations that are seeking monetary support and urge immediate action. Uh, I would think that either you or somebody you know has received a message like that in the past. I know I received many where it's urgent. They know we help people, and can we wire them $500 or 1,000, and that'll help them get out of jail in another country or something like that. Again, if it's unsolicited, then we just delete it, move it to spam, or just don't even respond. Uh, we talk about additional resources and priorities, lawful access. So law enforcement agencies are all over the country are bumping up against warrant-proof encryption, which means that even with a warrant, law enforcement cannot obtain the electronic evidence needed to investigate and prosecute crimes or security threats. And then the Iran threat. Threats from the Iranian regime and its terrorist partners are far-reaching. The FBI is committed to identifying and disrupting all Iranian intelligence and military operations that threaten American citizens or our nation's security and critical infrastructure. And last but not least, on June 27th, so we talk about like some of the penalties that could come along with this, people that are doing these nefarious things. And so this is an FBI press release on Friday, June 27th, 2025, titled Jury Finds Oregon Man Guilty of Stalking. So case number CR-24-1182-TUC-AMM-MAA in Tucson, Arizona. And so I'm going to be quoting quite a bit of this. On June 13th, 2025, in Tucson, Arizona, a federal jury found Brian Thomas Balda, 52, of Oregon, guilty of one count of cyberstalking and one count of interstate stalking. So, again, that's when we talk about the different states where he could have been in Oregon, and the person it was being stalked could have been in Washington or New York. And so that's when we talk about interstate. So they're more than one state. And so he was found guilty of one count of cyber stalking and one count of interstate stalking. The guilty verdict followed a 4-day trial before the U.S. District Court Judge Angela M. Martinez. A conviction for cyber stalking and interstate stalking each carry a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison, a fine of $250,000, and not more than 3 years supervised release. And he's going to be sentenced on September 4th, 2025. So, how did this come about? In 2023 and 2024, Balda engaged in a campaign to intimidate and harass a former United States government official. For approximately 10 months, Balda sent abusive and profane text messages and voicemail to the victim. Balda ultimately drove from Oregon to Arizona to confront the victim and was arrested by law enforcement near the victim's home. Four knives, binoculars, and a replica handgun were found in Balda's car at the time of the arrest. The FBI's Phoenix Division's Tucson office investigated this matter with the assistance of Pima County Sheriff's Department and the University of Arizona Police Department. The United States Attorney's Office, District of Arizona, Tucson, handled the prosecution. For more information on the U.S. Attorney's Office, District of Arizona, visit www.justice.gov/USAO/AZ/. So it's been a pretty informative episode today. We uh, we value it. We think it's very important to share, to talk about real things that are happening, like we always do. And so this was a learning experience for me. Uh, and it goes to show that if individuals are thinking about a cyber attack, cyber stalking, that uh, maybe maybe this will maybe this will be a reason or something to think twice about or three times about before going forward with that. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us. Check out our over 260 episodes. I believe this might be episode 270. In which case, check out all of our 269 plus this episode, all 270 episodes. You can watch, you can listen at your convenience. And we can't do this without your love and support. If you can give us a big thumbs up, subscribe, like, share, follow. Those are all free things and all ways we can uh, continue to help and provide information like these public safety concerns and public safety issues uh, and to hopefully help at least one person. And we know we have actually helped at least one person, uh, probably a lot more. We don't we don't always get those numbers because a lot of them remain anonymous, and that's quite okay with us. But thank you for tuning in. And if you can help us in any way, shape, or form, no matter how small or big, we are a nonprofit organization, 501(c)(3). All donations are 100% federally tax deductible. And we are on that mission to help 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. And I can't do that without your help. And thank you for tuning in. And like always, please be a voice for you or somebody in need. We'll see you next time.